ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to, excuse me, man, French. I'd like to say hello and welcome to a fresh, brand new edition of the program ASHFORD GARLEY Live on Bridge Radio Africa. Today is Monday, the 17th of April 2023, and it feels great to be back home. As always, Father God, want to give you praise, want to give you honor. Want to praise your name, want to magnify your name. Father God, we are grateful to you. Thanks for what you've done and continue to do. Blessed be your holy name forever. In Jesus' name, we've given thanks. Folks, as always, please allow me to borrow the wordings of the wise man. Tough times don't last, tough people do. The height of a man is never known until he rises because there's no second chance to make that first impression. Some call him the mastermind. Others, doctor of love, the medicine of the microphone. He doesn't eat iron, but he's definitely stronger than a lion. Africa's media do extraordinary. As for the giant, the now you know me, Garley. Welcome to the show. Well, at this time, ladies and gentlemen, we want to begin introducing our co-host, Mrs. Letterbox Roberts. Mrs. Roberts, hello and welcome to the show.
Hi, good evening, Mr. Garley. How are you?
Good, better than good as always.
Great. How was your weekend?
Fantabulous.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, to our viewers and listeners in Radio Land, thank you for joining another edition of Bridge Radio Africa with your host, ASHFORD, the Giant Garley. Thank you. Make yourselves comfortable. Please make yourselves comfortable and please be respectful of our guest and, of course, of our host. Most importantly, please be respectful of each other. Thank you.
Okay. Again, folks, if you just joining up, Ms. Eastman is in the building. Mr. Doe is also in the building. Please share the video and invite a few friends so that we can together have a great time. Let us bring in Dr. James T. Fisk. Dr. Fisk, hello and welcome to the show.
Thank you, ASHFORD, for welcoming me into another interesting edition of Bridge Radio ASHFORD GARLEY Live. I say hi to everyone in Viewerland. It's a privilege and an opportunity to be alive, and let's cherish it for what it is. I thank you, and we hope to have another important discussion this evening. Stay tuned. Thank you.
Okay. How was your weekend?
My weekend is always kind of busy. I'm always a busy person if I'm not on Bridge Radio. So just busy most of the time.
Okay. We have Joel Dennis. Mr. Dennis, hello and welcome to the show.
Hello, thank you. Hello, everybody.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Another week in the great America. We thank God. Still praying for the folks back home. Hopefully, we'll be able to return there soon, where we can start waking up every day in Liberia. Thank you.
How was your weekend, my man?
Yeah, not too bad. I rested. I rested this weekend. I took it easy on my body, and I slept a lot. So thanks for asking.
That's good. Okay. Who else we have here? Let's see the Reverend Idatu's added. Dr. Added.
Greetings to all of you wonderful panelists. Greetings to all of our dedicated followers and listeners. Always a pleasure to be here to discuss issues pertaining to our country, our beloved country, Liberia. God bless you all.
Okay. How was your weekend, Reverend Added?
Well, my weekend was very fantastic. Had a great service on Sunday. To God be the glory. Preached on good success, what it means from the definition of God's perspective, and what we can do to become successful in this world. in keeping with biblical principles.
Okay, well, let me welcome our viewers. I see Miss Yumithro Krangat. I also see Siada Tengbe. Deconti J is in the building. Godwin We Adore, Miss Eastman, and the rest of the folks. Please don't be selfish. Invite a few friends. Okay, don't just enjoy the show by yourselves. And listen, folks, you can also visit us via YouTube, and please subscribe to the page. And on Facebook as well, you can also subscribe to the page. And well, before we begin the show tonight, let us take a word from our sponsor.
Lorenzo G Grace. Hems vocal Liberia number one vocal Liberia number one, right? Okay.
The phrase, a new sheriff is in town, does not only belong to law enforcement. How about the introduction of Liberia's premier vodka, a quality and customized liquor for all occasions? Try the flavor of your choice. Ham's Vodka, Ham's Honey, Ham's Bitter, and Ham's Original Vodka. Ham's Vodka has no hangover. That's why they say Papa drank Mama happy. Ham's Vodka is sold in all stores, shops, supermarkets, and entertainment centers in Liberia. For wholesale, contact Ham's Vodka at 0777 001114, 0777 000 We can also be reached via social media on Facebook and IG at Ham's Vodka or www.hansvodka.com. In the United States, please contact Hans North America Incorporated at 610-543-9289, 484-888-1622, 484-755-8411. Hans Vodka is approved by the U.S. federal government. Hans Vodka brings out the real man in you.
I tell you in my boy, in my blood. Every time when I stay on the block, everybody knows it. We husband. And forgot that number one. Oh, from Liberia all around. In supermarket store and everywhere. And forgot that number one. Oh.
Okay, Ham's Vodka. This, in fact, our sponsor for the show tonight. And if you own a business out there, then you want us to create awareness for your business, all you have to do, please contact us. And of course, somebody from the marketing department will help, answer your questions, and we can begin promoting your business as well. Well, folks, let us jump straight into it, starting up with the revenue that was added. Our first segment tonight is the Supreme Court decision on Liberty Party, and of course the reactions from Ability, Musa Ability, and Yumbly Kanka, and of course the Dillon factor. What have you heard, and what are you hearing so far, Pastor Adi?
Right. So what is trending right now is the Supreme Court's decision that has led several interpretations. What actually happened when Liberty Party had issued a constitution to NEC? There was a contest that the constitution that was filed at NEC was not the legitimate constitution which was filed by Mr. Musa Beladi. So Yumbly Kanga and them contested that constitution, and then it was later on, per the case, taken to the Supreme Court as was filed by Mr. Musa Beladi. So the Supreme Court handed down a decision, and as a result of it, that decision is called the writ of certiorari. So what that means is they decided to review the case from that of the NEC on the basis of what they had heard, so that both parties can understand what is going on. So that decision came down in two folds, and all it did was, one, Musa Beladi legitimately filed. He had a right to file that constitution that was sent to NEC. All right. He was well within his purview to file the constitution to NEC. The second thing they also stated was that as far as the rights of individuals or parties, that is not the prerogative of NEC, but rather the Supreme Court. So these are the decisions that have come down, and quite frankly, both parties are interpreting it based on the implications. So what does that mean? So if the Supreme Court says Musa Belete had the right to file that constitution that is at NEC, that constitution at NEC puts Musa Belete and the executive in full authority of the party. Yumli Kanga and them are saying, but the constitution that was original to the party should have been the Farmington MOU that would have in fact put Madam Senator Kanga in charge of the constitution submission as the political leader of the party. So as it stands now, there's a serious crisis within the Liberty Party, wherein Senator Kanga Lawrence yet claims to be the political leader of the party. Musa Belete has put out a documentation that the Liberty Party, of which he governs, remains in charge of the party, and they cannot do any business representing the party, as the party is now being controlled by the chairman and the executive.
So
for that purpose.
So are you saying he has suspended the political leader? Is that what you're saying, or is that why he's making
well, based upon the constitution that is at NEC filed by Mr. Belete, that constitution grants him the power to suspend the political leaders, which he did several months ago for due payment. He suspended Senator Kanga and Darius Dillon for not paying their dues. So per that constitution, he's asserting the authority that it is well within the rights of the executive and the chairman to levy such suspension upon them and possibly expel them from the party.
But Musa Belete was calling for unity just over the last few days. He was talking about healing the wound, and he was talking about reaching out to both sides. What happened?
Well, quite frankly, when I saw the reconciliatory posture, I quite frankly didn't truly believe that it was going to go any further, especially when Madam Kanga had her meeting in, I believe, Grand Bassa, where she spoke at the gathering, she and Darius Dillon, stating that they remain in charge of the party. So he came up with such a reaction that he's tried enough to reconcile the party, and he is absolutely not comfortable with their actions and would therefore pursue legal remedy should they continue to do business in the name of the party.
Mrs. Brooks Roberts, what do you make of this inner party fight?
I find it very sad, in the face of all that the country is facing, and to find that these two parties or two members or chairpersons, one is a leader and one is a chairperson, and now he's removing her from being the chairperson, the political leader. Well, he's not the Supreme Court, so I'm sure they did that based on the findings, on the facts, and more in details of the law that I'm not privy to. I haven't taken the time to read their MOU and all those things, but it's just a sad thing knowing that these were once one party and now they're split, and possibly cause more chaos than what we already have with trying to get leaders and a president.
Dr. Fisk?
Well, as we've been having these discussions, I've been looking over the criteria for registering a political party in Liberia with NEC. And on page 3, it starts on page 3 and extends into page 4. Page 3 says it's chapter 2, organizing political parties. And then it says the organizing committee shall submit the following documents along with its notification to the commission. Notarized signatures of not less than 45 qualified voters constituting the organizing committee of the proposed political party, indicating the address including post office box, phone number, blah, blah, blah. A notarized bylaw and constitution of the proposed political party. That is the point I wanted to stress. The reason for this is that if you look back, you will see that Liberty Party has been around longer than the time that Mr. Bility became chairman. Okay, and we know that the party was by and large constituted by Charles Bromsky. So I'm asking myself, what other constitution did Mr. Bility gin up that legitimized him in the eyes of NEC, fully understanding that from the formation of the party, there was an original constitution that was presented as part of the criteria they had to meet to be legitimized in Liberia. So how come NEC is now using something that was formulated after the fact to use it as a judgment to say, okay, well, Musa Bility is in charge, okay, and extending that to the Supreme Court? What's the basis upon which the Supreme Court has reached a verdict? Because, and then of course we also have to understand the procedures of the Supreme Court in Liberia, because we know in the Supreme Court in the United States, whenever there's a decision, so to speak, on an issue, it is a written decision that for purposes of history, people can always go back to reference the law. So there are a lot of unresolved issues as far as this whole thing is concerned.
Mr. Dennis?
Yeah, Pastor Adi, thank you for explaining that complicated matter here, because I too been trying to follow that story to figure out what's going on. And to be honest with you, I'm still a little bit not clear on why they are still struggling to come under one umbrella. But my biggest fear here, though, is while they're fighting the opposition, I mean, CDC is still campaigning and still, making inwaves. And when we talk about this Supreme Court here that's making the decision, I mean, let me just remind these political parties, the next president will be deciding at least maybe 3 out of 5 of the Supreme Court justices. I mean, we know the Supreme Court justice herself is 68 years old. So I hope we don't run into a scenario where these people are so divided and they lose the real reason that they need to win this next election. I mean, I don't want to imagine the nuclear scenario where George Weah, puts 3, maybe 4 Supreme Court justices, and he wins the Senate, and we run into a situation in 5-6 years where they're making him president for life by changing the Constitution. So I hope they're paying more attention to the bigger picture rather than squabble over these little small issues. Thank you.
Our man Elvis is here. Elvis stressed last week that George Weah is a junior, even though he also went further to say he was not the member of the ruling CDC party, but he's a Liberian that loves Liberia, and he was just he's waiting to see who is in fact ready to lead the country from day one. Elvis, what do you make of the recent inner party fight between the chairman of the Liberty Party and the political leader of the party?
Thank you, Mr. Garley, and hello to my fellow panelists. Quickly, I want to say the only person I really blame in this whole matter is the late Charles Walker Bromsky. And the reason I say that is because, this guy bestowed, the mantle of leadership upon young Conga Lawrence, who didn't have the connections, neither did she have the political grandiose to lead such a big party. And when you look at somebody like Musa Bility, who went through all the right steps to acquire the chairmanship of that party, and this case is just being dragged about because Conga Lawrence is thinking that she can use her weight now as a potential, VP pick to usurp his authority. But they made alterations to their constitution, stripping her of all of the political party that Charles Walker Bromsky, bestowed upon her when he was the head of the party. He gave her the leadership, but he didn't give her his respect, his experience, the admirations that a lot of people have for him before, he passed away, sadly. So she's thinking she's Charles Walker Bernstein, reincarnated, but she's not. She doesn't have the power. She doesn't have the sway that he had. So giving the party to Musa Ability, rightfully, they voted for it. I think it was in Banga or so when they had a convention. They voted for all the new changes where most of the decisions were being made by executive committee rather than the head of the party like Bernstein had, made those decisions, unilaterally. So it's a nothing burger when you look at it. She just needs to focus on maybe, you know, getting the VP pick from Boyka and whipping up support for the people in Grand Bassa and Monserrato. But it's clear cut. I think we all agree Billy is the rightful chairman, and there's nothing there. You just got to move forward. I'll leave it there.
Pastor Ade, what now? I remember, we all know that Billy has paid his dues with the Liberty Party. And in fact, when he was tipped to be the chairman for the party, it was mixed reactions. And Dillon came on to say, you know what, there's Saul and Paul. And today, Dillon is on the other side fighting Billy. What is going on? With just a little over 5 months to elections.
Make no mistake, politics is very tribal in Liberia, Africa as a whole. So what we see is just a microcosm of how our sense of tribal alliance potentially can influence decisions of national proportions. Um, that Supreme Court decision didn't say Ability is the legitimate chairman of the party. That Supreme Court decision says Ability was within his right to file that constitution. And that constitution which he filed clearly puts him as the legitimate chairman of the party, which has been contested by Senator Congar Lawrence, that constitution filed to NEC is illegitimate. Hence, the correction has to be done by the Farmington MOU that they all enter into. Now, there are others who said part of the Farmington discussion incorporated the items from that agreement within the Constitution that was filed to NEC. So, quite frankly, this matter still remains unresolved. Yes, the law is the law. That was the Supreme Court's decision that Ability was within his right as SG to file, as the chairman rather, to file that constitution.
Well, the political leader, Madam Yombly Kanga Lawrence and Darius Dillon, still feel that this problem is still unsolved and they have a lot of work to do. As you can clearly see from what's going on now. As a matter of fact, over the weekend, she was in Asa speaking to the base. And we clearly heard Dillon also say that those who are members of the Liberty Party that you don't see here, that speaks volume, just to paraphrase, and he went further to say, do not listen to that ruling from the Supreme Court. Mrs. Brooks Roberts.
Yeah. Well, I find that a little interesting or sad that a senator will say not to listen to the Supreme Court ruling. Why it is true there are things that they need to work out, but they are the final arbiter of the law. And if they have said something or spoken on it, they had the time to come and bring their disagreements, their grievances, their facts, and in order to sway the judges in another way. But if they didn't do that, and this is how they interpret it, it's just sad that this wrangling is going on. I feel bad, and not because she's a woman, but I'm not sure if she turned her back and someone pulled the rug from under her, because I think regarding the Constitution that Dr. Faith referred to, I believe they amended it at that Banga um, meeting. So sometimes you trust people and think they're doing the right thing. It's interesting. I just had that conversation with someone regarding something I'm working on, and their motive may be different, but you think you guys are working on the same thing, and this is where the deception is just overwhelming in the country among all of the political people, from the top to the bottom. Because how can we be on the same team and we are fighting because we disagree on something so simple as our Constitution? Even though the Constitution is not simple, but it is the bylaws that they work with, and somebody did something for the Supreme Court to go by what they have.
Well, Dr. Fisk.
Well, the only thing I can say is that the pastor mentioned that politics is tribal, which it is. Before I talk about that, let's for 1 minute consider the possibility that okay, so the Supreme Court did come up and say, okay, based on whatever constitution that was presented to Nick, Musa Bility is the recognized chairman. But then we also have to understand what are the powers of the chairman under the circumstances. And do we see additional litigation? That is, if those other aspects of the current disagreements have not been addressed. So in other words, those that were bringing the case before the Supreme Court should have listed all of those issues that need to have been addressed. And the fact that we only see the Supreme Court speak to legitimacy of leadership tells me that there was a very skewed a presentation that was made to the Supreme Court, and I stand to be corrected. And then let's talk about the fact that the pastor mentioned that politics is tribal. If you look at, and let's juxtapose that with what has been ongoing in the Liberty Party. 2010 and then going into 2011, there were plans for Unity Party, Liberty Party to merge with CDC. And then you started beginning to have all of those wranglings when Franklin Siako, I believe the senator, was announced as Bromskin's running mate. Okay. So as things continue to progress beyond that, at some point, Liberty Party was looking at joining the CDC. It is my understanding. But what we have now is Yomli Kanga and Mr. Darius DeLong going in one direction and Mr. Musa Bility going in another. Now, as far as the tribalism of politics in Liberia is concerned, if you go back to the interim government, something very interesting happened. Charles Taylor should not have been the head. The head should have been one Mandingo fella. I finished forgetting his name now. And one of the reasons why he was not elected, it is my understanding, and I also stand to be corrected, that Prince Johnson was once said, "Oh, you want me Mandingo man president now?" So just that Mandingo man, okay? Most people see Liberty Party as a Bassa party, okay? So in other words, if that person that is head of that party is not necessarily a Bassa person, I think they have problems with it, and I stand to be corrected. But worst case, but Liberty Party is now faced with a worst case scenario that person is not just not a Bassa person, but that person happens to be Mandingo. And for some reason unknown to Liberia and Liberians always associate Mandingo with Muslim. For some reason, I don't understand. And because of that, there's some kind of stigma attached to it. And I think that's one of the reasons why people seem to want to question the legitimacy of Bility, even though Bility, according to the pastor and perhaps a number of people would know, played by the rules and was able to reach where he is today. That's what we say.
But Dr. Fisk, what is wrong with being Mandingo? You didn't know that this man was Mandingo when you were taking all the pickups that you were buying for the party? and the renovation of the party. I mean, doing this and doing that for the. You didn't know that he came from the Mandingo tribe, but
It's not.
when it's time to take the lead now, that's when you bring about the tribe business.
That's an interesting question. And I will say this. A lot of people did not follow Eugene Fagon when Mr. Weah was running his campaign to be president, but the trust of Eugene's argument on Facebook was this whole thing against Congo people. So it's not just Mandingo. Ask yourself, why is it up until now like bro got only 16 tribes? Tribe means the people that do things according to a particular way, custom, and the rest of it. So if you're making that definition, talk about Loma, Pele, Liberians have never accepted Congo, even though those are the same people that created Liberia at the time that 40 years after the rest of Africa were partitioned. These people don't even want to hear that word. So it's not just Mandingo, it's just a Liberian thing. There's something about our culture we have not been able to accept, we have not been able to embrace. And Musability is suffering from it in one aspect. Another aspect is that other people who may have Congo leaning, Congo background, by virtue of that history, will be looked down upon, so to speak, if they decide to run for president, because now you have people with them, and they try to play that same politics with Cummings, mind you. Cummings is a Congo man, because just that word Congo is supposed to be sufficient to eliminate you as far as being president of Liberia. So it's very deep. And Musability thing is just a piece of that big iceberg, that problem that Liberia is yet as a nation to reconcile with.
Well, Joel, we heard Pastor Adams said that Liberian politics is tribal. And my thing is, if you go back in the history, the Mandingos, most of who were in fact on the grounds before other tribes came. And yet there's this stigma that people calling people names that he's a Mandingo man. This is supposed to be a Bassa people party. What is wrong with all of this?
Well, Liberia is the oldest democracy in Africa, and I mean, quite frankly, you do see that nativism, tribalism permeate all throughout the country. And I do agree with Dr. Fisk that I mean, we still have a long way to go. When you have the top of the leadership in Liberia, kind of just using population. I mean, they're kind of abusing the ignorance of the population. Okay, these are the people that should be the guardians of the future. Yumbly, I have a lot of respect for her. Darius Dillon, I have a lot of respect for him. So as Musa Beldi as well. But if these people are trying to cling on to power by using the same kind of strategy that we see the one party in America uses here to kind of keep a grip on power, it will ultimately end very badly for everybody. We have a long way to go. I think we're maybe 20, 30 years away from having a stable country. I mean, and the reason why I say that is because everybody that is born today is corrupt. I mean, you almost have to catch the baby when the baby comes out of the mother's womb and take that baby somewhere out of all of this madness. If not, we will continue to have this type of politics in Liberia. And this is all a major power struggle. I mean, I don't think anybody is there really looking for the greater good of the Liberian society.
Well, Elvis, I know Mrs. Kanga Lawrence is no child's brown skin, but you will agree to me that she has been involved into Liberian politics for years, if not decades. She actually knows what she's doing. And I want to strongly believe that because of the divide within the Liberty Party, which one hand finds Musa Billited and Alice Cummings, and Yumbly is on the other side with Joseph Yuma Boyka. As a matter of fact, Arnold Boyka has still not picked his running mate, and we've all seen Yumbly is one of those shortlisted for for the VP pick, and this fight that has been dragged down to the Supreme Court, where you can clearly see the divide between the ability faction and of course uh, Madam Lawrence faction. Where are we going with this?
First off, let me say that the Liberty Party is not a quote unquote Bassa party. Their base is, within the Bassa belt, but there are a lot of other people who comprise of the, Liberty Party partisans. A lot of people from Nimba, a lot of people from,
Please speak
Monserrato.
up. Amplify your voice, please.
Are you getting me well?
Loud now, yes.
All right, thank you. I said let's not say that the Liberty Party is a Bassa party. Their base is within the Bassa belt, but there are a lot of other people that make up the partisans, of the Liberty Party. People from Nimba, people from Monserrato, Margibi, and so forth. But quickly, I want to say this. I will agree with Yombly on one part of this whole thing, which is I think that Musa Belete tried to usurp her political, power as the quote unquote political leader. She found it expedient for the party to align himself with JMB. I think that's well within her prerogative to do that as the quote unquote political leader, which is supposed to lead the party in the political direction that she felt was going to be the most, advantageous for the party. So in this case, I would agree with her that, aligning herself with JMB was well within her rights. But it's like a guy who is a father paying child support and say he shouldn't pay a lot of child support because this month he bought diapers for the baby, he bought shoes for the son, and he bought him a new bicycle. But still, the judge will tell you you must still pay your prearranged child support. And I'm saying this in regards to Yombi Kanga Lawrence, who refused to pay her dues because she says she does a lot of things for the party. Belete don't even know all the things that she do or that she does for the party, but she's not paying her constituted dues to the party. So she's not above paying dues. And I think that's where one of the problem is. If she's really savvy, like you think she is, Mr. Garley, she will be in good standing at all times, so that people like Billity and the executive committee will have no hold on her to hold her in any kind of contempt of the party rules. So for me, I think it's just some political inexperience, even though she's been around for a while on her part. And Billity being a Mandingo man, he's also partly I think Mano from his mother's side or so. So he's well entrenched within Liberia as a both a Mandingo and a Mano man. So it doesn't matter. He's not a just come from Guinea or or something like that. So his father was even there doing I think Dole time. His father was a fugitive from Dole. So he has a long story background and his family has been in that country for a long time. But my problem is why couldn't they consider somebody like a Harrison Conway, who is a stalwart of that party, a former VP of Walker Brumskin to be the chairman, or even Zargo, which is another competent lawmaker. But instead, it went with the biggest pocket, and now he's biting them in the backside. So I'll leave it there.
Well, the Reverend Idatus added, I heard some people say the law is the law. Now, the Supreme Court's recent decision, does it have some type of political undertone? Hold that thought. I'll take a little break and we'll be back with your answer.
The phrase, a new sheriff is in town, does not only belong to law enforcement. How about the introduction of Liberia's premier vodka, a quality and customized liquor for all occasions? Try the flavor of your choice. Ham's Vodka, Ham's Honey, Ham's Bitter, and Ham's Original Vodka. Ham's Vodka has no hangover. That's why they say Papa drank Mama happy. Ham's Vodka is sold in all stores, shops, supermarkets, and entertainment centers in Liberia. For wholesale, contact Ham's Vodka at 0777 001114, 0777 000 We can also be reached via social media on Facebook and IG at Hans Vodka or www.hansvodka.com. In the United States, please contact Hans North America Incorporated at 610-543-9289, 484-888-9300, 1622 484 755 8411. Hans Vodka is approved by the U.S. federal government. Hans Vodka brings out the real man in you.
I tell you in my boy in my blood. Every time when I stay on the block, everybody knows it. We husband. And forgot that number one. Oh, from Liberia all around. In supermarket store and everywhere. And forgot that number one. Oh.
Yes, you own a business out there. You want us to create awareness for your business. All you have to do, please contact Bridge Radio Africa. The Reverend Idatu's had it. You might want to please unmute your microphone.
What was the question again? Sorry, it skipped me. Ashford?
Yes.
What was that question again?
I say, Young Lee Kanga, people have said the law is the law, okay? And
Right.
others are thinking, including myself, that the Supreme Court's recent decision, does it have a political undertone?
I mean, obviously they made a decision on a political matter. So there's certainly a political undertone, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that is why politicians such as Senators Lawrence and Darius Dillon said disregard that decision, which is in fact, in my opinion, a political gaffe. The law is the law. The Supreme Court has spoken. So yes, in my opinion, that was a political gaffe. And hopefully they can correct that. But they also stated that they will use the very law to pursue other remedies regarding the issues happening at hand. But yeah, the law is the law. The Supreme Court has handed down 2 decisions, so they can still work with the NEC to be able to, resolve certain issues pertaining to their inter-party conflict that they are having.
Well, let me bring in James because he has some engagement. He will soon be leaving us. So let me bring him to weigh in before he can take leave of us. James?
Yeah, before I wrap up, I just wanted to say what's happening within the Liberty Party is just a microcosm of the uphill battle when it comes to that structural unity that most people keep talking about among these political parties. It's going to be something that's going to be very difficult to put together. It was tried in the past. It was not necessarily successful. So that's what I've always maintained. It's not about structural unity. It's about unity around a messaging that's going to help Liberians navigate away from the current CDC government, because this is a government that is still locked in the past. In other words, even though they have the mental leadership, they still continue to see themselves as an opposition, and they speak as people who are opposition. Is about blaming everybody else other than themselves. That is how opposition speak. You can have it both ways. If you want to be in the opposition, leave power, be in the opposition, continue to complain about socioeconomic circumstances in Liberia. If you are in leadership, take on the responsibility and stop looking in the past. The reason why people have elections is to fix the future. And once more, that structural unity is going to be hard within a very short period of time. You can have a message, a central message of all of these political parties that will be more effective. If there's a round 2, then of course people can sit down and decide how they will throw their support behind whoever is opposing CDC, and then whatever they will be getting in return. Those are things that can be discussed. It was an honor and pleasure to be on this program. And my thanks go out to the viewers who have had the opportunity to watch so far. Thanks a lot.
Mrs. Roberts?
Yeah, Mr. Garley, speaking of undertone, I believe when they first went to the court, they asked them to go back to resolve their own issue and find an amicable way to resolve it. And that's when they went to the Farmington, right? Pastor Idatus?
Yeah.
Right. So most times the court doesn't want to get into um, organizations, um, you know, such as that, because they don't want to be the ones to solve it for you. They want you to go look back and see what you may have done wrong, or how could you come to a mutual understanding so that they don't have to put their mouth in it or their hands or feet. But they did that and we thought they were going somewhere. Apparently they didn't. So if you come to me, and I'm telling you you're going to resolve it and you don't resolve it, you come, I have to give you a decision. And I look at it based on how I see it. Again, everything in the country, most things are politically motivated. So they should have gotten mutual people to maybe look at their constitution and or whatever else they're working with to and maybe through their own personal animosity with the tribal and all that kind of stuff. Again, you stated it. This very ADD was glorifying Ability at one point as he was Saul when people thought he was, the worst person, and he now has come into Paul. So how has Paul turned back to Saul? I will leave that with the pastor.
Joel?
I think my thing is if this Liberty Party, if they can't even organize themselves, how will the Liberian people trust them to run the country? I mean, what do they have to offer? And I'm sure there is a lot of things that we don't understand that they're not publicly telling us the reason why they're really fighting. And I don't believe it's political at this point. There is a power struggle. I think the fact that Musa Ability, the so-called Mandingo man is in Grand Bassa County, and I mean is in a part of Liberty Party right now. That is playing a big role because at one point in time, Musa Ability's name was not, his brand was a little bit tarnished. So when he was linked to Liberty Party, they had some real issues there. But again, like I said, if they can't organize themselves, I'm sorry, they don't need to be, part of the political process in Liberia. I'll leave it at that.
Elvis?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you again. And I will say this quickly. I think the real party within the Liberty Party right now is in the executive committee. And who has control of that executive committee is Musa Ability. And again, that's where I would point to Yumbi and say her lack of political savvy. She's not savvy enough to, reach the palms and know how things works in Liberia and work in Liberia to get those people on her side. So right now, the reality is the party is in Ability's hand. But I do still think that the voters would probably, galvanize around, Yumbi being the first quote unquote Bassa female vice president. If she is picked to be Joseph Boyka VP, I think she will get a lot of vote from the Bassa belt. So I don't think Ability being the chairman is going to sway people away from voting on behalf of Kanga Lawrence, their own daughter, as they see it. So for me, the court has spoken. I respect the court's decision. And I think we just need to move forward. There's nothing more to say to this whole issue. That's it.
Well, thank you. And thank you, fellow panelists and folks, if you're just joining us. This is ASHFORD GARLEY Live on Bridge Radio Africa. This program comes on weekdays, Mondays, Tuesdays, and Fridays, beginning at 8 p.m. At this time, we want to move on to our next
ASHFORD.
Yes.
ASHFORD, just before we move on, Elvis keep emphasizing the lack of savviness on the part of Yumbi Kanga. I just want to, shed some light on that.
Okay.
For someone who carries the political weight and remains a political asset to the Liberty Party, one cannot claim that she's not savvy. As you rightly stated, Ability has the party on paper, but politics is about numbers. And if numbers get you the presidency, then who's savvy? So yes, Mr. Ability may have, legally have some ground, but let's not get this wrong. The court decided that Mr. Ability was in his right to submit the Constitution. But the court did not decide that he's the political leader of the party. So Yamli Kanga still remains that political leader. And in fact, truth be told, you know what the Bassa Belt is? Montserrado, Mar Gibby, Grand Bassa, River Sis, River G. There's 5 counties. So if Yamli Kanga enjoys the sympathy of those who are Basolians, you cannot underestimate or, overlook the potential for people to make decisions, because it remains the first time a Bassa person become that close to the proximity of power. So that what makes politics tribal. So if she's savvy that the votes are gravitated to her, in spite of the party authority in the hands of Musa Beladi, not quite true, but a reality, it makes a big difference to who becomes the next president of Liberia tomorrow.
But let's talk about the strength of Yomli Kanga. You just named a few counties here. She barely won the election against Western Finley quite recently. Besides, Musa Beladi is on record telling the world that he trucked voters from Morovia to Bassa to help her win. Yeah, you are talking about the strength of Yomli Kanga Lawrence, Pastor Ade.
Okay, excellent. So, Mr. Beladi is certainly on the national platform making claims of what he's done, but we haven't heard about what Madam Kanga did to garner the votes and win those elections. She's won twice, make no mistake. A win is a win. Now, politics is very fluid or dynamic. So that time may have changed. We are in a season where we're deciding whether the next president of Liberia will be Joseph Boyka or the incumbent stays in power. So the VP slot has become very, very important. So if you tell me that, if a Bassa person comes to that proximity of power, the Bassa people may not want to vote for her, or if somebody from Nima, such as Jeremiah Kuhn, comes to that proximity of power, there wouldn't be some people making decision for the first time. A Guillaume is looking at the presidency, apple to apple. It's possible. So one cannot overlook the tribal nature of politics. Quite frankly, politics is driven first by personality, pride, religion, and institution. 4 cardinal issues with our politics, driven by personality, tribe, religion, before institution. Thank you.
Elvis?
Yeah, I just wanted to make a correction. Jeremiah Count, he's not Gil. He's a Gribble man from Doblican, Sign Up County. His family moved there about a generation or so ago. So he's not quote unquote Gil as you describe him. And just quickly, I want to make this, when I was talking about Yombi Kanga not being politically savvy, she was outmaneuvered by Billington in terms of getting the power that be in the party on his side. So just having the Bassa blood in you, maybe that's our saving grace, as you're saying, Dr. Reverend added. But in terms of politics, she hasn't won the party over politically. She hasn't. If she did, she won't be suspended. If anything, maybe they would have kicked Billington out, and she will be the one running the affairs of the parties today. So I think she was outmaneuvered, and when it comes to money, she doesn't have enough money, compared to somebody like Billington. So she can't grease the pounds like he can. When they needed a new party headquarters, imagine Billington was the one that secured a new party headquarters for them. Mr. Gardy mentioned, the pickups, the vehicles, the bikes, all of those things. You have one man who's bringing all the bacon to the table, and you want to sit on top of his head. I mean, again, I still say she lacks political savviness, even though I think you made some strong points already added, but I still hold my ground on that point.
Okay, well, before we move on, ladies and gentlemen, I want to bring in a league of mine in the person of Councilor Jerome Verdier to pick his brain a little bit. Councilor Verdier, you live on British Radio Africa. Hello, and welcome to the show.
A giant good evening to you and our sister and brothers there on the show. What's up?
Yeah.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Hello, how are you?
Good.
I'm sure you've been following the show. We just wanted to get some legal feedback from you from the just concluded ruling from the Supreme Court. Even though we don't have the full result in our hand, what do you know so far, and what is it that you can do to help us understand from the legal angle?
Yes, I sense some confusion from our people, especially when it has to do with the political play. And I will restrict myself to what I've gathered just legally and from what I read. I haven't read the entire ruling of the court, but I saw the last page where there was a summary and the order from the court. One thing I noticed is that the case went to the Supreme Court on certiorari.
Councilor Verdia, can you break that word down? I know Pastor Addy spoke on it for those that are listening that may not.
Yes, certainly. Okay, yes. Certiorari means temporary review, no finality. It means that a proceeding was going on either at the NEC Board of Commissioners or at the NEC hearing officer, and somebody, one of the parties, wasn't satisfied with something that the hearing officer said or did or ruled on, and so they went to the court and said, no, this hearing officer or this NEC Board of Commissioners is going wrongly. They said something that is not right. So we want you to review it. So he went to the justice in chambers, and I think he decided for one of the parties, and that party wasn't satisfied, and they went to the full court, the full bench. So all the justices sat down and they reviewed it, and they said, we will send this case back. But before they did that, they made an order, which gives me the impression that the matter that was before the court, before the NEC or the hearing officers, had to do with tampering with documents and falsifying documents and fingering documents. So the Supreme Court then in its finality said, but when it comes to falsifying documents or tampering with documents, the NEC has no authority or the expertise to do with that. So there should be one of the criminal codes because it's an act of criminality. So it should be one of the lower courts, and which I presume and assume, because it says fraud, will be one of the criminal courts. It's either criminal code A, criminal code B, or criminal code C. So the Supreme Court is telling the NEC that, look, you don't have any jurisdiction over this. So let it go to the appropriate court that has the proper jurisdiction. So the parties are back to where they started. Now they will have to leave the NEC and go to the appropriate court. So the order goes to the NEC that you have nothing to do with it. So do what you have to do. And so the NEC will call the parties and say, this is what we received from the Supreme Court. So whosoever brought their case here, you have to go to the court, or the NEC will choose to transfer that case and the files and everything to the court. Alternatively, the party who started that case will have to file anew in one of the circuit courts, which will be the criminal court. So they are going back. They haven't gone anywhere. They are back to status quo ante, meaning where they started from is where they are. Nothing has changed. And their matter has to be started in one of the circuit courts. And by my estimation, we are in April. So it means that case may not come up until September, which will be the next trial court year.
Okay, thank you, Councilor Verdi. Let me see if the panelists have something for you, starting up with Pastor Addick.
So, thank you, Councilor Verdi, for such a great explanation on the matter. So then why is Mobility claiming that he can restrict Yombi Kanga and Darius Dillon from holding party events in Liberia or abroad, and that he will sue them? Is that within his legal rights to do that as chairman of the party, or supposed chairman of the party?
I think why they are doing that, especially in the case of Ability, nothing has changed in his case. He's sitting down where he was before they went to the court. He's right where he was before they even went to the the neck. So nothing has changed. So maybe that's why, but there's no victory for anybody coming from the Supreme Court. The actions the Supreme Court is telling them, look, this issue you brought here has nothing to do with neck. Find a circuit court to decide it. But then there is a word they use, I remember on that page too, where they say res judicata.
Correct.
Res judicata, I don't know how they brought it in because I haven't seen the full thing. But res judicata says that every matter that you have decided, it remains decided and will not be reviewed. Let it stay this. Especially if you go to court, the same issue, the same facts, and then the court decides on it. You cannot go back and re-litigate and bring that matter back again. I don't know how it plays in, but maybe that's where somebody is trying to capitalize on. I don't want to give my political impressions publicly like this because I know all of the parties and I'm not part of their party. So I really thought from the beginning it was not a very, very strong matter. That's why I didn't follow it. But matters that interest me, if I don't have a fish to fry in it, I will try to know what the media is saying and what the parties are saying. But the whole Liberty Party issue, for me, I don't see a genuine legal issue that they should be fighting with. What they have there is strictly a question of politics. But somebody choose to go to court, and so if they go to court, if they complain, they try to raise a legal issue, legal issues will be raised, of course. And now the Supreme Court is saying, no, you'll go back there. You don't have any issues for us here. In fact, Nick, you are the wrong body to be sitting over this matter. Let it go to the court of proper jurisdiction. That's what we have.
Okay, that's the voice of Constitute Joe Radio. Elvis, Joel, you have anything for the council? If not, we can move on.
I don't have anything.
I just want to. I don't. Maybe he can't answer this question, but I just want to know how this family feud, let's call it that, will affect the upcoming elections in Liberia. How does what role does the Liberty Party are they playing that could have an impact on the election, the decision of what's happening now? How will it impact the election?
Well, if Liberty Party doesn't take part in the elections will still go ahead.
Right.
If the CBP doesn't take part in the elections will still go ahead. But as far as full participation of all parties, we've been talking about reconciliation. There should be nothing brought in our jurisprudence that will exclude one party or another group from taking part in elections. So on those principles, I will assume that the court will want to put all other matters aside and deal with this matter expeditiously as a matter of priority so that nobody can be disenfranchised, especially one of the leading political parties from taking part in the elections. But other than that, if the court chooses, our law says all election matters during election time should be prioritized. So if the court, I don't know how well it applies to the local court, but the Supreme Court is under that jurisdiction to prioritize electoral matters, especially during election year. And I will assume the local court too will be inclined to prioritize in this matter. But if they follow the normal procedure, we're talking about the end of July and then September before there will be a hearing.
Okay. Wow. The voice of Councilor Joe Radio. As always, want to appreciate you for taking time out tonight to join the conversation. Thank you, Council, and we'll be in touch.
Greetings to all. Thanks a lot.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Council.
And the voice of Councilor Joe Radio weighing in tonight on the program. And folks, ladies and gentlemen, let us talk about the young Liberian man who was shot. And his family is grieving tonight. Gun violence, I don't know the details, but I will ask Pastor Ado to take the lead. I know his mom is from Liberia. When I heard God spoke, I just Grab the action right away. And Pastor Adi, what do you know?
Well, I want to first of all extend my heartfelt sympathy to the family for this young man's um, tragic experience. Went to pick up his twin brothers, as I learned, and knocked at the wrong door and got shot by a Caucasian male. So, and he's fighting for his life. So we're hoping that justice will be served. But then again, these states have different laws concerning stand your ground. So I'm not sure if it's applicable in Missouri, but it's sad that this is what we have to deal with. Our society is still struggling with racial undertones and resentment for one another, even though Dr. King made it clear that we are all created in the image of God, evidently in the Bible. But this is the reality we have to deal with as a society, as people of other, nationalities and cultures. We are consistently faced with the brutal reality that, in the words of Dr. King, we ought to be judged not by the color of our skin, but by the content of our character. Unfortunately, it's something that we're seeing institutionally or individually, or better yet, culturally.
Yeah.
Mrs. Roberts?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Garley. I also like to extend my sympathy, even though he's alive, but the gruesome death. Shooting unexpectedly just for knocking someone's door. I did attempt today to call the numbers. There's some numbers on the flyer or the notice, and they're not even picking up. They said if you know the extension, and then the phone just rings and hangs up. But no, it's not a stand your ground law in that city, in that case. It is not. The gentleman was the older man who shot him was released immediately, and which the family finds unfair, because if it was the other way around, that person would be in jail until bailed, or even with bail, they probably would have set it so high that he won't be able to build be bailed out. So yeah, it's very sad. You know, people sometimes, especially homes joined together close by, you just mistakenly come to a person's house, and it just, without being threatened. His gate was locked. It's not like the boy just opened his door. He had a glass door, and he shot him. And when he shot him in the head, he didn't stop there. He went and shot him again. It is, a miracle that he's even alive. The last update I saw that he was released from the hospital. So I want to thank God for that. But this is an issue that everyone should call Missouri to speak. Keep calling until you can get through to somebody, because we are our own. We have to fight for justice for ourselves, as you see or saw during the Floyd case. It was the people that brought that change to Minnesota because of what happened. People watch the officer kill that young man. And so it's the same thing here. Even if you scare him with a gun, I'm sure he would have ran off. Why do you have to shoot him twice? So it's a sad thing. And we thank God that he's doing better. We pray for the family. And Liberia, America has this issue, as Liberia points out when we try to talk about the issues there. But at least here they know the perpetrator, and something was done, though it's not enough, but we will let our voices be heard. Thank you.
Well, Mr. Dennis, when will we finally get our hands around this, where you get shot just by knocking on the door?
Man, I when I came to this country, I before coming to this country, I didn't even know I was a black man. It wasn't until I got to America and living in Ohio at the time that I was first told that I was black. So this problem that we face in this country, that this oppression that we face in this country, it's heartbreaking. Every day I wake up with that burden on me. I don't know sometimes if I'm going to come back home. When the police cars behind me, my anxiety goes up, my heart starts to pump. I get really nervous and scared. I don't know if it's gonna end. And over the last 5-6 years, it's even gotten worse. And I don't think it's gonna get any better, to be honest with you. This is the reason why we have to do everything in our power to fix Africa, fix our country, because at least there, we don't have to be under this type of immense pressure, just to live. My prayers go out to the family. I'm happy that the kids survived this, but this is not the last time we're going to hear about this. This is not the last time we're going to hear about this. I'll leave it at that.
Elvis?
Yeah.
Yeah, I must take more of a somber tone to this because I'm a young person who has had experience of gun violence. And I just want to say this. In the Liberian community, especially for teenagers, people around at 15 to 20 years old, gun violence, especially here in Minnesota, has been on the rise. We've had 2 young Liberian kids who killed each other. I won't say kill each other, but Liberian kid who promulgated a crime of murder against another young teen Liberian kid because he was associating with another gang, another guy from another gang, and shot that kid. Another kid wanted to sell some Balenciaga sneakers, and he killed his friend, both Liberian boys, in the car because the kid didn't agree to his haggle. So a lot of gun violence is going on in our community. We had some suicides with young Liberian kids in this very same Minnesota. Another kid took a gun, killed himself on Facebook Live because he was depressed. So this is a situation that's plaguing our community. I think we need to take it seriously. Our psychiatrists and psychologists needs to have maybe a workshop to reach out to our Liberian parents, to reach out to their kids. But quickly, I just want to politicize this a little bit, and with not to be insensitive, but with all the dangers that we see in America, we walk around, we're afraid. If we go to the grocery store, if we go to a movie theater, if somebody is going to come in and shoot the whole place up. But yet instead, we say that America is safer than Liberia. I beg to differ. My social life in this country has been curbed because of my fears of somebody just shooting randomly. I've had a friend in high school who was killed by a stray bullet just coming away from a party, at like 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock at night. So America is not as safe as we think it is. And this is just one of the prime examples. You can get shot, you can get killed. My own house was shot at, because of mistaken identity. I have the pictures and everything. I can send it to you, Mr. Garland. My window was busted through. Came in the room, I saw the bullet on the floor. So this country is not as safe, but things like this, you never hear about it happening. People are not just killing people at random in Liberia, like some of the political people will try to spin that narrative. So tragic for what happened to that kid. Thank God he made it out alive. But our country is a lot safer when it comes to gun violence than this country. I'll leave it at.
Mrs. Roberts, I have a son who turns 17 years tomorrow. I have a daughter who is now 21. And I pray for them every day because the young folks, man, the teenagers, they want to be out there. I've been in this country now for a little over 23 years, and starting up in Detroit, I would just go to work home, and I don't even know most of those places out there because the kids now they don't even know how to party anymore, and you can't tell them anything for the most part. And all we have to do is just pray for our children, pray for them, because this is it's getting out of hand, Mrs. Rapp.
Yes, I do agree. In fact, I not just this gentleman. I think this weekend, a Sweet 16 party there were gunshots. So it's a Elvis said he doesn't want to make it political, but I think he was comparing to Liberia and here. But here it's political. They do not want to put they're using the Second Amendment. Yes, you have a right to have gun, but you don't have a right to shoot it anytime at any human. Guns are for protection or shooting, going out, those who like shooting, going just for fun to shoot or hunting. But you don't just, stand at your door, somebody knock it and shoot them, black, white, or indifferent. So it is a political issue, and it needs to be spoken about. We as people that live here, not just for our Liberians, but all people should be against gun violence. We should be, taking any opportunity to protest, because most time we are the victims of it. So I'm very hurt because I do have a son as well, of about the same age, and I don't know what I would feel or say or do if someone came to my door to tell me that happened. And we warn our children every day, and they tell us. I know my younger son tells me, "Mom, you scared for no reason. You scared. You scared." Little boy, I hear news, I see things, I read. So yeah, we are scared for our children, and we just continue to talk. But please, I will share that information in the chat room. Please call those numbers. Let them know people care and people are interested. Whether they answer the phones, but they will see that they have a volume of calls coming through. Thank you.
Okay. Well, we're usually out of here within an hour, but somebody just chipped in the $100 via Zelle, and she says she's enjoying the program and she wants us to go at least a half an hour past this, so at least money can be bigger then. So you know what I mean. But so we wonder what before Pastor Addy can me announce the number. The number to call if you want to wait in is 267-248-5295. Pastor Addy?
I mean, gun violence is certainly a problem. And we who are living in America, there is this argument between Democrats and Republicans. And then I often hear people say, these things are happening predominantly in Democratic cities. But what is also clear in those Democratic cities, the lawmakers are predominantly Republicans. So how do we get to pass gun laws if one group is hell-bent on maintaining the right to bear arms, even against the detriment to the greater good of society? So we are finding these challenges very difficult, and that is why residents or citizens need to vote, not just for your senators or the president or not just for the president or the governor. You need to vote for senators, to be able to change the dynamics so that things we're advocating for, we can experience some degree of change. So gun violence and drugs will become very prevalent as long as, in our in our body politics here in the States, there's one group that is predominantly the gun people, and stronghold on that right to bear arms in the midst of people dying, to include our children and especially people of color as well.
And one of the arguments is that it's not the guns that kill people, it's the people, it's mental illness. But if I don't have access to a gun and I'm mentally ill, I won't be shooting anybody. So it's just an unfair argument for me. You can't say people are sick, that's why they use guns. Why are so many guns available? I mean, every week now you hear young people just it's not a good thing. And again, like we said, voting is it's not the be all, but it helps. Vote them out or vote them in. When they have those town hall meetings, or come to your door, neighborhood walking around trying to talk. What is your stance on the NRA and all these raffles that people are being killed? Go to a party, killed. You go to the mall, killed. yeah, that's another issue. Even the malls. So what do we do? Just stay home?
Joel?
You know, I used to be I'm licensed to carry a firearm, and I did used to walk around with my firearm, some time ago. But I tell you, there was an incident once where there was actually somebody was shooting, and me and my firearm, I didn't even realize I had the firearm. But once that bullet rang, man, I started running. So a lot of people who just want to walk around with weapons, who are not trained to carry that thing, could be a danger even to themselves. But as far as the gun violence in America, America is just angry right now. The country is just. I mean, it's just. I mean, the politics. It's very toxic. Um, you know, both parties can't. I mean, just you definitely have one party that seems to be more of a cult now than a political party. So if that can't get figured out, I think the anger will continue to boil over. I mean, and because you do have on the right, you have the NRA and these gun corporations that's pretty much funding that side. So that is a huge business. They're not going to stop. They're not going to stop. Those corporations from selling guns here. The only thing we can do is just teach our kids. Just it's just when you pull that gun, your life and somebody else's life is going to change. And I'll leave it at that.
Well, Elvis, I went, Detroit is one of those rough places. I went and got me a license to carry a firearm, and I never went to buy the gun because, I mean, I just feel that it didn't make any sense buying the gun. I mean, just a firecracker alone, coming from the war in Liberia and hearing the sound of the guns and stuff like that. I have a young boy and a girl that are very active and stuff like that. Where do I keep this gun? Where do I do this? And I just didn't buy the gun, and
guns still alive today.
One of the things that well, my people here, guess what? We are getting it will get interesting. I know you'll be surprised, but we have guess what? Chairman Musa Ability just touched the studio, folks.
Oh my God.
Chairman Ability, my friend and brother from the hell of a long time, my man. How are you? Welcome to the show, man.
Thank you, guys. Thank you.
Wow.
Welcome.
And good evening to all.
Welcome.
Good evening.
Good evening to you, Mr. Ability.
Good evening.
How was your weekend, my man?
Not bad, we are rumbling here in the jungle.
Wow. Okay, so let me have Pastor Addy take the lead on this one, and then we'll.
Thank you. Welcome, Honorable Ability. So, please resolve for the curiosity. You're welcome. Please resolve for the curiosity of the public. People are quite concerned as to whether or not this is a victory for you, or this is a victory for the political leader Yambli Kanga with respect to the Supreme Court decision. There is this air of confidence that you've won the case when in fact the case is being sent down to be redecided, even though it was within your rights to file the Constitution you did at NEC, and that an invalidation of document will be decided by the court. What say you to that?
Okay, thank you once again. Hey, when the Supreme Court ruled, I saw it as an opportunity to for the party. I mean, I didn't see how. I don't care how you put this. At the end of the day, there's no way that there can be someone can declare victory in this particular issue. It's a political issue. It's a political party. So somebody can win a legal battle and somebody can go away. But yeah, I don't want to say that. I can't speak for Yombly, but I don't want to say that it's victory for me. But I also, don't want to say that that's what they've said or what they've said is true. What I do know is that it provided us the opportunity to understand that the legal side of the argument has come to an end and that we needed to find a political solution. Unfortunately, we don't seem to be seeing it from the same prism. The biggest problem we have in our country is that comprehension is increasingly becoming difficult. The Supreme Court does not enforce any decision. The Supreme Court normally hears appeal, except in specific instance where you are talking about maybe imperial information, or the lawyers will call it, but most of the cases come from a lower jurisdiction and then it lands at the Supreme Court. So when the Supreme Court rules, they send it back to that jurisdiction and say, here's our decision, implement our decision. What the public have seen is the opinion of the Supreme Court. When the Supreme Court rules on issues, for the last 2 years, the biggest issues in the Liberty Party has been whether or not we had a convention, whether or not my chairmanship and the leadership of the executive committee were legitimate, whether or not we have a constitution that should be binding on the party, and whether or not I, as chairman of the party, had the authority to submit the constitution, the amended constitution of the party. The Supreme Court answered all of those questions. And the way the Supreme Court answered it is basically saying that, based on your own understanding of the law, based on what the Election Commission has told you, and based on what the rules are, you cannot annul the outcome of your own convention like that. So the Supreme Court, therefore, to implement that Ability and the executive committee are the legitimate leaders and their decisions are valid. That's one. The other issues as to whether or not it is Ability that should be the one to submit it, but the Supreme Court was very clear on that the law that normally then rely on did not talk about submission of amend the Constitution. That law talk about submission of the list of individuals that have been elected at the convention, and that you cannot rely on that and make a claim that have no basis in that. So the Supreme Court, on the issue that you're referring to, as saying that on the issue, the public needs to be aware that Yombly and other members of the party did file a criminal complaint against me and the Secretary General of the party. And that criminal complaint was heard by the magisterial court in the same manner and fashion that Alexander Cummings was charged, indicted and charged. I was indicted the same way. Arraigned before the magistrate court, the case heard, and the judge dismissed the case and said that the people filing that complaint did not have a standing. So, if people want to drag the Liberty Party issue, yes, anything you want to drag, you can drag, but the Liberty Party case is over. And there's no other way around it. When you file a criminal complaint against somebody for an entity, you got to have standing. If the Supreme Court has ruled that we are the legitimate leaders, nobody else can file a complaint in the name of the Liberty Party besides us. I think they are forgetting about that part.
Well, Chairman Billington, how difficult it is, it will be to unite the party? Because last week I heard you sound like a unifier, and I respect that. You said I don't want to see this as a victory. We are trying to heal the wound and put the party back together. And at the weekend, we heard something different coming out of Dillon or Yombi Kanga, and we're hearing now that you are cautioning the political leader. I don't know if this is true. You can you can correct me if I may speak. That the organization here in the diaspora, you are authorizing it not to do business with a political leader, or else they will be sued. I don't know how true is that. Uh, where is this unity coming from?
Okay, so you saw my reaction when the court ruled that it's an opportunity, and I'll be very specific. The reason why I was conciliatory is that Dillon, Yombly, and myself had been in communication prior to the court ruling. At some point in time, we had determined that, irrespective of the court ruling, we should try to unite the party. And we were talking. Yombly was in America. I took the phone and called her. And when she came to Liberia, I reached out to her the Monday before the court ruling. Before then, I reached out to Dillon every day. So there was a context. I knew that we were talking. And I've always said to them, the court ruling will only enable us to let our supporters know that this is what the court has decided. The only other option right now is for us to sit down on the same table. But you expect me, as the leader of the party, to see normally now somersault on that, go and not only ridicule the Supreme Court, make statements against me that are inaccurate, and continue to posture herself as leader of the party. And I should just sit in the name of reconciliation and do nothing and allow this gullible society to accept that. I was not going to do that. I was not going to do that. And
So,
I'm
Mr.
not
Bellady,
going to do that. Yes.
so Mr. Bellady, then what do you say to others who say you are putting a spin on the Supreme Court's decision? Because this decision is not a finality of this legal matter which you are proclaiming. It is an end.
Have you read it?
Well,
the Supreme Court ruled on those 4 issues are final, and the ruling said they are final.
On
the issue of whether or not there was a convention that is final, on the issue of whether or not there is a constitution that is final, on the issue of whether or not we are the legitimate leadership of the panel, there was a final. The 4th issue was that Election Commission, you were trying to look into an allegation of fraud. You have no such authority. I don't care what happened. No law can stop anyone from going to court. So the individual's right to seek legal redress can never be diminished. But that doesn't mean that there's no finality. I mean, the issues at hand was decisively dealt with. Tomorrow, Dylan can get up and go to court and say, we brought Billy to the court for ABC reason. Our legal system is there to receive anyone, no matter how frivolous their complaint is or the lawsuit is. It is only that we have legal system. If they are coming to file on their own behalf, that would be easy. But to file on the behalf of the Liberty Party, you gotta have legal standing. If you don't have standing to be an authority authorized by the executive committee of the party, you can't file a lawsuit on behalf of the party. I'm saying this. Please call on some lawyer in Liberia and ask them. Nobody.
Well, but we just had a lawyer. We just had a lawyer here, though, that stated the matter isn't resolved. The Supreme Court took two decisions, Mr. Billery. The first decision is it was within your right to file that constitution. The second decision was it was not the prerogative of NEC to make a legal judgment on whether or not documents should be validated or invalidated. Hence, the Yomli Kanga Ability faction still have a legal recourse on the matter. That's what the Supreme Court said.
No,
but you were saying the Supreme Court has ended the matter.
Is that the truth in the lawyer said? Is that the truth in the lawyer said? He didn't say
that is what the court reported.
Yep, no, he didn't talk about the validity of the Liberty Party Constitution. He didn't talk about that.
The court spoke to that, Mr. Billery, and the court said the court said that NEC was not in any position to validate that, and that is why they sent it back. Yes, that's what the court said, Mr. Billery. The facts are very clear.
No, you are.
All right, please educate me. Please go ahead.
Believe me, you are misinforming the public. The court said that the Constitution of Liberty Party that came from the convention in Banga in 2021 is valid until proven otherwise. Okay? If you say that something was there's fraud, you have to prove fraud and then come back to say this thing is fraudulent. Until you do that, this document that is submitted before the NEC remains the valid document of the Liberty Party. That's what the court
I couldn't
said.
agree with you more. So the court is telling you.
So therefore,
thank you. So listen, right? So the court told the court, based on what you just said, has given them a legal recourse. The door is open. Yes, it is. No, the court said yes, it is.
Pastor Adi, I think it
has
to go back to the lower courts.
But I just told you something else.
Yes, as far as the Supreme Court is concerned, it's finished. But if the other faction who is opposing this, if they want, they have to go in the lower courts and prove there is fraud. So that's what it's saying. As far as the Supreme Court is concerned, this is over.
So guys,
so they do have standing, Mr. Miller. You keep saying that they don't have standing. Legally, they have standing.
No, let me explain this to you. Let me say this to you. If you are going to file a lawsuit in any court regarding the Liberty Party, the executive committee of Liberty Party has to sign a resolution authorizing you to do so. Go ask any lawyer. If it is a personal lawsuit where you feel personally injured, you don't need anybody. But to go and say, I am coming to say that the Liberty Party Constitution has issue, you have to be an authority of the Liberty Party. The court having said, the court having said that the executive committee and the Constitution are valid and the executive committee is the legitimate body, you're going to need that executive committee even our most ability, I cannot go to court without a resolution signed by the Executive Committee of Liberty Party to say we have authorized Mr. Ability to issue a lawsuit on our behalf. The legal recourse that the court gave them was that where they carry a criminal complaint is the wrong place. So tomorrow they can go and file a criminal complaint.
Right. That makes it a legal recourse. So the matter is not final.
There's everybody got legal recourse. The issue of legal recourse can never be diminished at any point in time. Even if the Supreme Court decide, even its own opinion, it has the right to go and look at it. So legal recourse is a general statement. The point I'm trying to make to you is that the issue in the Liberty Party that we were fighting over, we remember now, we're not fighting over document fraud. Remember that. I want you to please remember that. We had passed over that ever since. We had reached to a point where all that Jumbly and our people were asking for is that the decision we took in Ganta, that we should reverse that decision. So, hey, guys, Jumbly has legal recourse, and she will continue to have a legal recourse. But what I'm saying to you is that the party has been put on the alert to function without any interruption. So if you're going to take a legal complaint on behalf of Liberty Party got to give you the go-ahead. At this point in time, you're not going to get that go-ahead from us. And that would be literally something that the lawyers of Liberty Party have to ask Yombly to say, if you asking me to go to court, you got to give me something from Liberty Party. The court had declared who is the executive committee. So you got to come to us to give you the authority to go.
Okay.
So
well,
we're not going to do that.
Well, Chairman Ability want to say thanks for coming. We have 18 more minutes, and I will just go around the room to allow each of my colleague here to ask one question. Let us start with Mr. Elvis Morris.
Mr. Billiter, thank you for coming on the show. Pleasure to meet you.
Thank you.
My only question would be that at the time when, Mrs. Lawrence or Senator Lawrence was the political leader of the party, don't you think it was her prerogative to lead the party politically as she saw fit, whether it was to align with the ANC or to align with JMB? Didn't you guys think she should have had that, decision-making power to align herself and her party as the political leader with whichever party she saw would be more advantageous for the party in the future? That would be my question. Thank you.
Before we went to Banga and changed the constitution, she had that right. The political leader had that right. I would never have been the chairman of Liberty Party if that constitution was in place. So at the end of the day, that is what it was. That's what we changed in Banga and said that the decision of the party shall be made by the executive committee of the party. So there was no time that we would have been a part of a leadership that only one person makes a decision. So on the issue of the political direction of the party, you call for a special national convention and make that decision. When the Liberty Party was joining the CPP, it was a special national convention that approved that. I was not even chairman at that time. So yes, it was not her prerogative. And just imagine what kind of organization you're going to have where one person makes a decision, and it doesn't hold water.
Thank you, Joel Dennis.
I guess I just have a statement to make, Mr. Ability. I think for the greater good of Liberia, I'm really hoping and praying that you all can end this family feud and come together so we can win this next election. I pray for that. Thank you.
Thank you. My response to that is that sometimes we always do this in Liberia, and I would think that when we push each other out, it's okay. When the court decided, we did come out 2 times, 3 times in 3 different press conferences or press to show an olive branch. If no one is calling out Yombly that came out swinging, that threw all of the opportunity away. No one is calling her out. And the only thing I'm hearing right now is that you'll make peace, you'll make peace. Peace is much easier if we lay out the facts. Once you lay out the facts, then it becomes easier. We have never refused to make peace. Peace is our position,
Mrs. Roberts.
Yes, thank you. Good evening, Mr. Ability. Welcome to Bridge Radio Africa.
Thank you, madam.
We've talked about this case prior to you coming. I don't know if you are listening. We have, some people suspecting that some of this is more than meets the eye. It may be a tribal thing. And there are others that are saying that you are a spoiler, that you're working, for the CDC government. What do you say to these 2 allegations? Or do you think that against because you hail from, the Mandingo tribe, or?
The Liberty Party does not have a history of tribalism. So when the moment I realized that, I will see that. I think what is it about is that some people just want to use the Liberty Party to get to power without regard to the rest of the people. I haven't seen it as as anything beyond that. And if I do, I will come out, swinging and saying it, but I've not seen that. Hey, my dear sister.
About this spoiler.
Yes, that's what I'm about to answer. I've been, in the Liberty Party since 2017. At this point in time, somebody have to say, what have I done to make me a spoiler? We're in the collaboration of 4 parties. I'm chairman of Liberty Party. I was the campaign. I was everybody darling until I decided that I'm supporting Alexander Cummings. I become everything else. But nobody has said, what have I done? What specific action I've taken that makes me appear like a spoiler? What?
Follow up. Is it because normally the whole party goes to one, person, and now you went one way and they went another way?
I guess so. But if you have the George Weah government. I'm here. I'm supporting Alexander Cummings every day. CPP, Alexander Cummings, we attack this government on every issue than any other political party in Liberia. And yet, at some point in time, I just think that I feel is beyond my imagination. I want somebody to say, most ability, you did this. When the CPP were in existence, this was your specific action that I never took Cummings to court. I fought for the 4 people to stay in the CPP. I fought all the way we went to the Supreme Court to say they must stay. We're all supposed to stay until we find a solution. How have I become a spoiler? Now, if I don't want the CPP to exist today, a single letter from me to the Election Commission to say Liberty Party is out of the CPP, that's the end of the CPP. So, I don't need anything else. How am I supposed to be a spoiler for something that I have the capacity to spoil. I mean, just with a stroke of a pen, CPP can vanish. And I've stood by it, fought for it, literally bled for it. And yet people come. So my appeal to you now going forward, if somebody say Benedict is a spoiler, what has he done? Supreme Court rule. I come also and say this is an opportunity for us to make peace. How did that make me a spoiler?
Chairman
When somebody gets up now the next day
let
and
me
say,
No, hold on, there, Chairman Billy. Let us talk about uh, the opposition as a united front for a minute.
but can we talk about this politics? You know, this thing boils my blood.
Yeah,
Because I want something. I need something now that I can consume.
Okay, take 3 minutes and talk about the spoiler thing, because people are saying you're a double agent. They say you go for the
My appeal to everybody now is, when they come to you, the ability has done this. Can you tell me what I've done? I've not done anything. Just as the guy
So let me tell you what
day
you've done,
say
Mr.
Tommy
Billy.
is a gay, and he didn't. So we can be stereotyping one another. My dear sister, I'm not a spoiler. I believe in what I do. I have no history. I've never changed course in my entire political life. I've never supported anybody in my political life and come back in the time and say, this person, I'm moving from behind the person. I've never done it in my life. There's no record of me.
Did you support CDC, this current president?
No, you see, this is the problem. Mr. Alexander Cummings, Councillor Charles Bromsky, Mr. Bernard Ure, Mr. George Weah, Mr. Prince Johnson went to Ganta and signed a document called the Ganta Declaration. In that Ganta Declaration, they say the opposition must make sure that there is no third term of the Unity Party. They all sign and say any one of us that make it to the second round, we all will go behind that person without any reservation. Because George Weah has failed miserably and put our country in the mess that is in, how does that make me a bad person for having lived up to a commitment that my party signed onto? How? This very United Party that is in the opposition today was the one that all the other opposition signed document against. I guess he didn't know that.
But Mr.
That's what happened.
Mr. Billy, what about this allegation that you owe the government some money as it relates to the road funds, and because of that, you went to George Weah and asking to not come after you for the money you owed, and based on that, you compromised and you decided to play a double role in terms of working with the CDC and pretend as if you are for the opposition? Why don't you think the allegation is valid?
Out of respect for the rest of your guys that were into, but that allegation was made by a moron, someone who has a very, very, very limited IQ. So I cannot talk too much about him. But at the end of the day, I own a company, okay, like 8 other companies. And I own a storage company. And I store fuel. And during the Ellen government, we were storing fuel and collecting storage as our revenue. When George Weah government comes in and say, this story that you people collected, half of it is supposed to go as road fund, but the road fund was not created. And everybody agreed to say, okay, this is what we will pay. Everybody, number one, the 9 companies agreed to pay. What most ability as an individual has to do with that? And all of these companies are paying. My company has paid more money than any other company. Again, if this is compromise, what is the compromise? You know, as for, it's easy to say this and this, but point to a specific action of mine that seems suspicious. Just say something. Yesterday, last week, I said, I want Bwaka and coming to sit down and talk. Before then, they said I was the one who was preventing that talk. What is my specific action that makes you ask for to feel that maybe it's true Musa is in bed with the government? What is my specific action? I have a radio station, 2 of them. You listen to them. What do they do that make it appear as though I am pampering to this government? It's not a crime to own a business. I own a business where I make my living. And if you own a business, you make money from it. It's not a crime. And I think that's what many people are getting wrong. Remember, before all of this, I spent over $6 million in the Liberty Party. Why nobody asked me a question then? I was not running to be president. I was just running the campaign.
US dollars or Liberian dollars?
United States dollar. I brought 79 vehicles for the Liberty Party campaign. I did that from my pocket. From my pocket. Nobody talk about that. That's the very Liberty Party people thinking that are just coming in. Both Dillon and Yombly were not even executive of that party when I was CEO of that party. People don't see that. I bankrolled the Liberty Party campaign of 2017. It was because now it is me, myself, then it becomes a crime. Why they didn't call it a crime then?
Well, Mr. Billy,
let me can I come in here, please? Mr. Billy, well, thank you for your contribution to the Liberty Party. My only admonition to you will be do your best to unite the party against all of the criticisms you hear. The question I have for you is, first round or second round, do you remain committed to supporting the opposition to removing this incumbent, since you've stated that this country is in a mess under this president? And I have a second question.
And before Mr. Benedict, Chairman, before you answer that, last week you said that you're fighting for the opposition.
My memory not too good. I want to deal with that question. Can you keep the question so that before
Go ahead.
Yes. First, I believe me, if someone came today and said, let's go and sit down to talk to peace and Liberty Party, I'll be there. Any day, any time. And I'm prepared for that. On the issue of opposition unity, I am the only person in the entire opposition on record, even when we're in a CPP. When I saw that the tension was high, I stand as early as last week on record that we have 2 approaches to opposition unity. Is that if Mr. Cummings and Mr. Bwaka cannot agree a single ticket, then let us commit before the Liberian people that any one of them that makes it to the second round, let all of us go behind that person. I have proposed that. I am committed to that. I warn that if we leave ourselves like this and don't sign an MOU where we restrict each other from coming at each other instead of going after the CDC and create bad blood, and then all of a sudden, within a 2-week period in the second round, you want everybody to forget that bad blood and come behind one person, it will not work. We must make the commitment right now to the Liberian people that the least that we'll do is that when any one of us make it to the second round, all of us go. But I'm prepared to go tomorrow to sign that document without any reservation.
Right.
And
so what I'm hearing,
record,
whether or not you sign, you
for
will do it.
For the record,
I
have proposed this to the Unity Party. The chairman of the Unity Party has shown willingness for us to put this together so that the
Stability. I'm saying whether or not you have a paper, are you willing as the strong executive of the Liberty Party to support the opposition in spite of a paper or not?
Nothing will make me to support the CDC. Nothing.
Excellent. Good.
Nothing.
Thank you so much. You're on record.
I have zero record of saying this and doing that.
Thank you.
Okay. So, Ashford, 30 seconds. My final comment to you, as a person who's interested in opposition unity, I think it was a political miscalculation to suspend Yumbi Kanga and Darius Dillon on the basis of when in fact they are your political assets. Politics is about numbers, and they've demonstrated twice victorious in elections in Liberia. So I'm really hoping, Mr. Belity, that having said what you said with the greatest humility, that you will please do your best, go beyond the criticism, the hurdles, make it happen, because Liberia is more important than what is happening now, with the unity necessary for a victory over the incumbent. Thank you.
Again, for the record, every action I have taken, every action we have taken has been in reaction to our previous action. Yumbi held a press conference, expelled me, claimed that she had expelled me from the party, dissolved the executive committee, and withdrawn the constitution. That was before we took the action we took. Both sides could have done it differently and would not have been
correct.
And I take responsibility for that. The truth of the matter, if everybody going to be truthful on this issue, the truth of the matter is, it is Yumbi's ambition to be a running mate to Omebwaka that has cost the Liberty Party everything. Everything.
How so?
Because I was prepared, in spite of internally saying that between Joseph Boakai I prefer Cummings, but I was prepared to say whatever the party decide.
Mr.
Let's go after that.
Mr. Chairman, who else is out there? You said, and quote, you are just waiting for VP Boakai to announce his running mate. When you, Musa Belity, or your part of CPB announced their running mate, the whole ground will shake. In other words, you said it will be a game changer. Who else is out there?
So, are you insinuating that in the Republic of Liberia, that there are only 2 people or 3 people that can be vice president?
No,
is that what you are saying?
I'm just asking you.
Right here on this panel, you don't think that we can find a vice president here?
Of course we can.
Exactly. So, come on, guys.
I put my hand in the rest.
Come on, Musa. Politics is about numbers. There's no vice president on the panel.
Let me tell you something, my brother. I have been in this business for a long time. The presidential campaign is about the presidential candidate. Take it from me.
Right.
It's about the presidential candidate.
But the difference is we have one candidate now that needs a vice president that will make a difference. So that's not an easy choice.
No, not one candidate. Not one candidate. Joseph Boakai vice president is more significant than Alice Cummings vice president. You know what? Because
exactly. So they just can't be anybody.
Joseph Boakai vice president is a potential president.
Okay, Mr. Belity.
Absolutely.
Mr. Belity.
So hey,
Mr. Belity.
Is on him. We're not rushing. We got our convention coming in 1 month. We'll go there. If we haven't decided to make the between now and July 14, we'll decide and tell you who our vice president is. We're not in no rush.
We're giving you the platform tonight.
We promise nobody. Huh?
I said we're giving you the platform tonight. Name the VP.
I don't have the authority to do so. I
Drop,
don't have
drop
the,
some.
the framework document is very clear. That is the sole prerogative of Mr. Alexander B. Cummings.
Okay, he has a question. Is it a lady or a man?
You know, I will answer on a personal note. I would prefer a lady.
Mr. Ability, next time we're gonna have the full hour with you. Okay, but that's all the time we have.
Whenever you want, man.
I want you to please give us your partner statement as we go home tonight.
Thank you. I just want to say thank you to everybody. Questions, you know, tough but very nice, objective. I hope that, you know, eventually we're in campaign time. We're going to have all of these issues. CDC, you know, is having that issue every day. PLP, people just came out yesterday that the decision that people take don't represent them. That's the nature of politics during election time. And hopefully we'll get there, we'll close it up, there will be winners, and then we'll, you know, stack our deck and look forward to the future. But until then, we remain open to dialogue. We remain open to bringing our party together, but we have no intention whatsoever to compromise the Constitution. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman Ability, and we'll see you soon. We'll be in touch. And folks, you just listened to the chairman himself, and he's on record, you know, and say he's not a double agent. He's in no way working with George Weah or uncovered supporter for the ruling party. And with that, we're going to go home tonight. And I would just ask you guys to give us a closing statement as we go home tonight to come back tomorrow night. Letty Brooks Roberts.
Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Garley. Thank you to our listeners. Thank you to my fellow panelists. Thank you for the to Councillor Verdier, and of course the surprise entry of Mr. Musa Ability, Chairman. We said thank you for coming. While your party is in disarray, we just want you to know, well, I do want you to know that in the end, everything will come out. So whoever is playing the double games or the undermining, Liberia, the town has eyes, and we'll find out. Thank you all. Have a wonderful evening. It was great. And have a blessed week.
Elvis.
Thank you, Mr. Garley. It was great being on the show, and thank you to my fellow panelists. Great conversation, and I think Mr. Ability wasn't being completely clear with us, but we'll take his word at face value. Thank you.
Joel.
Mr. Garley, thank you. Thank you for Pastor Ade. Thank you. Ms. Brooks, Roberts, thank you as well. Thank you for all those who've been watching tonight. This was a wonderful show, actually. I truly enjoyed it tonight. And I think I got a little bit more educated about some of the inner workings of the Liberty Party tonight. Hopefully they don't get back together in Ganta and declare George Weah president again if they can't get along in the party. I look forward to Liberia having a peaceful election and a peaceful transfer of power, regardless of who wins, because I think that is the most important thing. We must have a peaceful transfer of power in Liberia, regardless of who wins. So thank you.
Well, thank you, Liberians, for watching. Thank you, wonderful panelists and contributors, Councillor Verdier and Mr. Ability. My request to Liberians is register and vote. Whether or not opposition come together, you know where Liberia is now and how it is affecting your lives. Register and vote, because your vote today will make a difference as to whether or not you remain poor or you have an opportunity to prosper, have good schools, good hospitals. Register and vote. Let the politicians do their thing, but Liberia's destiny is in our hands to register and change it. Thank you.
Take us home tonight, Pastor Adi.
Father, we thank you. We lift up Liberia to you in a special way. Yes, we come on this platform, we talk politics, but you see, oh God, what we need. You know what we need. Give us a leader after your own heart. The Lord bless you and keep you. The Lord make his face to shine upon you all and give you peace. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
And also the time we'll have to be with you folks. Have a good night. I'm Ashford the Giant Garley.
Shalom.